80th as North Carolina retook the lead and got the win. Here's Dunn. Oh boy, McDonald in the area, one touch. Oh my goodness.
Hey, we're really excited, you guys, to have Jessica McDonald with us. And she is a striker for the NC Courage. Am I correct on that one?
Yeah.
And then also she's just, again, like any athlete, just in this period of waiting and social distancing and whatever that looks for. So we're just going to have a really cool discussion with her. So Jessica, I'd like to just ask you, maybe you could just kind of share a little bit about yourself and how you got to North Carolina and, you know, however long that takes.
Yeah. So a little bit of my testimony, like really like my why and more so my purpose. So I had to obviously like try and find myself before, before I became a pro. So in college, those are kind of like the times you're really searching for yourself and just trying to sort of figure things out. And, I had a lot of friends who were part of the FCA program at UNC. So it was really cool to obviously join them. They were some of my teammates at the time. And so I had a friend part of the women's lacrosse team text me one night, and I was doing homework, and she asked me to come to worship with her. And so I went, and I barely knew this girl at the time. I only knew her in bigger groups, being part of FCA and things like that. And, we were always just in groups. I never hung out with her outside of that and didn't really know her. Like I said, we were more so acquainted, but she texted me one night to come to worship with her, and I went, and obviously this was just like a life-changing evening for me, because I believe that was like my first time really truly finding Christ and like finding my faith. And we're in the middle of singing a song, and she sits me down, and she's asking me all these personal questions, and then she's telling me things about myself that, things I never even told anybody. Like it got really, really personal, like deep down. And I'm in tears at this point. And she's telling me in the middle of worship, she's like, look, there's going to be some life-changing event in your life. I don't know when it's going to come, but this is God speaking to you through me. And just know that. So at the same time, she's telling me all of this. She has a notepad and a pen, and she's drawing this crack in the road, symbolizing this life-changing event that's about to happen in my life. And then out of that crack, she starts to draw a flower out of it. And so she was like, this symbolizes something beautiful that's going to come out of this. Like, you're going to turn it into something so beautiful. And, God's got you all the way, blah, blah, blah. Like, she said so many things, and it was so heartfelt in that moment. I was just crying the entire time, because like it hit me really deep, obviously, because that's a serious thing to tell somebody. Something's about to happen in your life, and you're just like kind of twiddling your thumbs waiting at this point. And so she pointed in the corner of the church, and she's like, there's an angel here too. I couldn't see it though, but she could. And she's like, look, there's an angel here. He's watching over you. She said he's been watching over you, and just know that this angel's always going to all the way. And then, God's got you throughout this whole journey, blah, blah, blah. And I'm freaking out, you guys, because this is like my real true first experience with Christ, and more of a deeper meaning. And so finally found my inspiration, my motivation. And it was that evening. And I never felt that in my life. And so, I took that drawing. I still have it to this day, which is insane. And so let's fast forward. This is my senior year in college. So let's fast forward. I get drafted by Chicago Red Stars to obviously play professional soccer. So I go to Chicago, and towards the end of my rookie season, this is probably about 6 months after this evening I had with my friend at worship. 6 months later, I fully rupture my patellar tendon, which is like, it's a bigger injury than ACL. And it's a 2-year recovery. And like, this is an injury that happens in like football games and car accidents. And so fully ruptured my patellar tendon. And that's that crack in the road that my friend was symbolizing. And so my surgeon's telling me like, hey, the likelihood of you ever playing soccer again or playing at a high level in sports is like 1 in 10 chance. And so obviously that's like devastating news for a 22-year-old rookie to obviously receive. And so here I am, I get surgery, recovery. I'm in the middle of recovery. So a year later into my recovery, I find out I'm pregnant with my son, Jeremiah. And that was obviously not planned. It was a surprise. And so that's that beautiful flower that my friend drew from the night of worship. And so, life really started to hit me really hard when I became a mother. And here I am recovering from knee surgery at the same time. And so here I am trying to re-find myself, but still relying on my faith, because when those two things happened, my injury and then having my son, they correlated in a very positive way. And looking back, here I am, a 3-time NWSL champion. I'm a World Cup champion from the USA team. And after I had my son and I restarted my pro career, a friend of mine, I left this piece out. A friend of mine, she made me this undergarment. It's in my locker. I wanted to grab it for you guys. Actually, it's in my locker right now. But it says Jesus paid it all, and I've worn it underneath my jersey. Most games. It used to be every single game, but there were times I'd forget it at home. If we're on the road. But it says Jesus paid it all, and I've had that ever since. Ever since I started my very first game after I did my knee, and I haven't been injured ever since. So moral of the story, this is my testimony, and, science and doctors said no, but God said yes. They told me I'm not supposed to be where I am today, according to science. But, I relied so much on my faith that obviously it's gotten me here, and God's gotten me here, because, they're telling me I'm never going to play again. But here I am, came out of that, had a child, recovered from both of those. And then, here I am, I'm a 3-time NWSL professional champion and World Cup champion on the USA Women's National Soccer Team.
Really cool. That's really awesome. So with that, I mean, you've had a pretty awesome life, leading up to this, a lot of maybe, trials, tribulations, however you want to look at that. But what is one thing that how faith has kept you grounded through this? So like, give an example of and I know that this is kind of coming from, we have a lot of youth soccer players or just youth athletes, young athletes watching this. So through those trials, how important has your faith been for you, getting you to the point you're at right now? And how, at the point you're at right now, is it still just kind of that importance of having that in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. It's still a huge part of my life. And even to the point before every soccer game, I say a prayer with some of my teammates. And sometimes the opponent at the pro level in the NWSL, they come in and we all say a prayer together. And that's huge. And even throughout the World Cup, this wasn't something that obviously went really that public, but me and my teammates who are higher in our faith, we said a prayer after every game in the World Cup. In the middle of each field, we all said a prayer together. And obviously it's still been a huge part of my life. And the reason for it is because there's no question about obviously God. And once you find your faith, I believe, he's in control. And so that's what I just try to continue to keep consistent. And that's obviously just having him sort of just take the wheel in my life.
That's really cool. So we have a question. How do you stay Christian at the elite level? Like, what is it that you have to do? Or what do you do with your team? How do you associate with your team? Like being a Christian athlete, what challenges does that bring? Or in the same sense, how has that helped you become an elite athlete?
Yeah, obviously, like it comes with its challenges because not everybody's Christian and not everyone understands what it is to be one, I guess, and people dislike what they don't understand. And so, um, and obviously like that can be very challenging because as professional athletes you're more so in the public eye, and obviously there's going to be critics and people are always just going to have their opinions on things. And so and that's where it can get hard. But like I said beforehand a couple minutes ago, that I just have to rely on him to take care of those things for me. And I just try to you know speak in more so of a professional and positive manner, and also show it on the field as well. And so, as a Christian, I just like to just be vocal about it, and just being able to surround myself with my Christian like teammates as well, because we have quite a few on our team, which is kind of amazing. And so, just sort of having that bond and continuing to surround myself with a good circle has like what has helped me obviously throughout my career as well.
Yeah, right. So what kind of things, like during this time of social distancing, how are you relying on God to kind of get you through this? What are some things that you're doing right now? Actually, two questions. One, what are you doing right now to get through this?
Yeah, so I'm actually still training. I'm still able to train, which is like kind of amazing. I have an in-home gym, which I'm very grateful and blessed to have, obviously. And my my teammates and I, those who we have Bible study every week, and so our team chaplain, she'll send us like videos or like live sermons and things like that. So we're still able to like bond in that kind of way virtually. And so that's what's kind of getting us through as well together as Christians.
That was my next question is like, what is your team doing in this downtime, more or less? But um, can you talk about that? Like, what does your team do from that Christian perspective? Like, and you guys are doing, Bible studies and stuff like that. How are you relying on each other?
Yeah, so like I said, our team chaplain, she's been sending us some Bible verses, and I even have a teammate who will she'll send me online services. So it's kind of nice to obviously be able to still communicate with each other. So we're all in like a group chat, and so it's obviously nice to receive those things from them and just stay in contact.
So what kind of advice would you give the young athletes right now, both from just during this time? We have a lot of athletes on this webcast that their seasons just got shut down.
Mm, yeah.
And so, like, what kind of advice would you give them from that perspective of just kind of getting through this, and just what kind of advice would you give them from, you know, um, being a Christian athlete on their team, how to lead with that Christian-like attitude or Christ-like attitude, just the advice in general for them.
Yeah. You know, God doesn't put us in these types of situations if he knew we couldn't handle them. And this is definitely one of those things where we're all in this together. We're all affected by it. And obviously you just have to continue to rely on him and know that we can get through this, especially together. And so this is also a good time to work on yourself. And what I mean by that is whatever sport that you play, this is a good time to obviously get out and work on your weaknesses and perfect your strengths. And so that's sort of the type of advantage that I've been able to take as an athlete. And obviously just continue to rely on him to continue to give you just mental and physical strength every day, because that's what this world needs right now. And yeah, just know everybody's affected by it, but as an athlete, the advantage that we do have is like we can still go out and work on ourselves, physically, and just perfecting your skill.
What are some of the, I suppose, um, challenges that you guys face from um, being out or not in season to coming back into season?
Yeah, so um as athletes, like you train so much in the off season to like prep for preseason. And now that we're still in this off season and still try to prep for preseason, it gets kind of boring. And what I mean by that is, we want to play in games. That's the point of training, is that you want to be competitive and play. And the simple fact that there's no contact whatsoever, obviously we can't play. And but one cool thing that my coach did do is he put us in pairs, and we have one training partner to obviously go out to the fields with, or the weight room with, every day or whenever we want, pretty much. And he sends us videos of new drills that we can work on together and things like that. So we've been privileged enough to obviously continue to train, and being the North Carolina Courage, that of course we're going to do that, even though it's not mandatory. So we're still out there, we're still training, but only in pairs. But I think that our transition going into the season, it's going to be a little weird because it's later on in the year. It's going to be hotter, and we have to do a whole preseason, and so it's kind of a lot, but it's just something that we're looking forward to, and we're still able to stay sharp at least.
That's awesome. So we have we put a number out there for people to text their questions in, and my phone is blowing up right now. So I'm just going to try and throw these out at you. And one, of course, was, does the team have a chaplain? And you commented on that.
Yeah, we have two.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
What are some, so kind of off that, what are some of the rituals that you go through before your game starts, and maybe even after the game, from a Christian perspective?
Yeah, so before every game, we get together. Our chaplain waits for us before every game, and if it's a home game, so we have our own team chaplain. Every team in our league has a chaplain, and it's really cool because all the team chaplains actually get together before every season and kind of get on the same page of what they want to do with us as athletes. And it's really cool actually what we do in this league. And so we have the opponent also come in with us, and we say a prayer with our team chaplain, and then it'll be the same thing if we're on the road. So if we're in Utah, then the girls will text us and letting us know, hey, team prayer in this room, like meet us at this time before the game. And so it's kind of bittersweet because obviously we're playing for him, but at the end of the day they are our enemy at the same time. So, but it's a really beautiful thing to obviously have, and we're really blessed to be able to do so.
And one of them was, what was your reaction to making the Olympic team, or sorry, the World Cup team?
Yeah, I cried. I cried a lot with just relief as soon as Jill Ellis, who then was the head coach, told me on the phone that I had made it. She thought I hung up on her because I was kind of in shock but crying at the same time. So but it was very much so happy tears, obviously.
Very cool. What does it look like with the faith on your team? So we have a lot of kids, in their huddles, or no matter the sport, how the ritual is sometimes. Football will go out to the middle at the end of their team and they'll circle up. Soccer will do that at some of our schools. Do you guys have that kind of thing going on with your team, with either the women's national team or NC Courage? What does that look like? I mean, because we have a lot of kids on here that they want that, and it's something that we see is amazing for them, as they progress into their careers.
Yeah. So for the North Carolina Courage, like I said, we say a prayer before every game, and then we also have Bible study. We try to have Bible study once a week with our team chaplains, and it's just like a really cool thing to have. So if that's something like you guys want, then obviously I'd say reach out to people and see if they would be on board to do the same thing. And as far as a women's national team, like I said, throughout the World Cup, we said a prayer after every game in the middle of the circle, in the middle of the field. So that was really cool. And also before every game, those of us who are Christians on the USA team, we do say a prayer as well before we go to the stadium.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
Just some really short questions here. Who's the biggest goofball on the team?
Which team?
On the USA team.
USA team, biggest goofball, I would say, is Crystal Dunn.
Crystal Dunn. Okay. Um, what advice does she have for those pursuing a career in soccer? And so that could be an open-ended question, but what advice would you have for anybody that wants to pursue getting to that level that you are at right now?
Yeah, you have to do more work than what you're doing with your team. You'll have to work behind closed doors when no one is watching. Um, you know, it's going to take a lot of sacrifice. I missed homecomings. I missed a lot of high school football games. I missed dances. I missed birthday parties. I missed 8 years of Thanksgiving away from my family. You know, it's gonna take sacrifice, and it's gonna take hard work.
Very cool. So do you have a favorite scripture that you kind of rely on, or like a life verse or anything of the sort?
Yeah, so my favorite Bible verse, which is really popular nowadays, which blows my mind. But this is a Bible verse my grandmother's been telling me since I was a child, and she still she says it to me. So me and my grandmother, we're very close, and she calls me before every game. Every game, she does not skip a beat. If she's not at the game, she's calling me, and so it's a really beautiful bond that my grandmother and I have. But since I was a little girl, she's been giving me the same pep speech, and she always says, you can do all things through Christ who strengthens you. So repeat after me. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. That's Philippians 4:13. And so because of her, like, she's definitely instilled that in me.
That's awesome. I love that verse. It's always a bedrock. What are some of the biggest struggles that you maybe have had? I mean, you kind of commented on, you injured your knee?
Mhm.
You had that struggle, overcoming that. Like, how did you lean on Christ during those struggles? I mean, was that between you and God? Did you have your other Christian teammates helping you out through that? What kind of walk us through that? Like, what did that look like for you?
Yeah, that was like a really, really tough time in my life where I was being tested. And when you're being tested in your life, there's something that's got to push you, to just get up every day. And so just being able to simply just say a prayer in the morning or before I even go to bed, I'd still get up the next day and thank him and try and like crush it and grind, because I know that life truly is short, and life in general is very hard. And so for me, I felt very alone during those times. And so that was where I really had to rely on my faith. I started to go to church more. That's probably the most I probably read the Bible, to be honest. And so like just trying to grasp onto life, because it was sort of a learning process that I was going through on my own almost. And so, support system faded. Parents hadn't really been there. And so I really truly had to find myself and truly try and stick with my faith, because that was the only consistent thing in my life at the time, and still is.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what's coming up next? Like, what are some of your goals? I mean, because here we are, we're in this social distancing thing, so idle, if you want to put it. What's coming next? Like, what do you have coming up that's like a goal for you?
Yeah, if we're talking outside of soccer, I've actually been able to work on my resume, which is something I haven't had time to really do, and put it like in more of a professional format. And I am actually taking a course on how to, as a pro athlete, transition into your next career smoothly, and so I'll be making like a LinkedIn profile. And so I'm doing some like real life adulting, during this time. And that's what I'm kind of looking forward to, is just like a smooth transition when I am done playing and going on to the next thing.
And so kind of remind everybody or tell everybody what is the calendar right now. I mean, we talked a little bit on the phone earlier about what was supposed to have been happening, what is coming up now as far as when you start playing again?
Yes. Yeah. So we were supposed to start our season next Saturday on I think it's the 18th of April. And, we're not, obviously. So everything's gotten pushed back. And so far, we're not supposed to start our season until June 27th. And by that time, we were supposed to be like almost 8 weeks into our season. But preseason starts in May. But as long as, everyone's healthy, I can't wait to get the ball rolling, to be honest.
That's really cool. We'll look for that. So I'm going to have Katie come back on, and she's going to introduce Ada one more time, and then Ada can probably close us out. Is there, maybe Katie might have questions that have come up on her end too. I don't know. But other than that, I really, really appreciate you, Jessica, for being on here and sharing with everybody. It's been really cool to kind of hear from your level of like what it looks like to be that Christian athlete. And it's been enlightening for all of us. And I know that we have a lot of people that are watching this right now that this is a really special moment for them to meet you. So I thank you very, very much.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you. I don't have anything on my end. Comment though is June 27th, great day. That's my birthday, so hopefully that works out for you. But Ada, coming from a soccer player, do you have any last question or anything before you close this out?
Coming as a student and an athlete, I mean, not an athlete and Christian follower, what are like some things that you have done in the game? I know how you said you wore that under your actual jersey. What are like some other things that you have done?
Yeah, after scoring a goal, sometimes I do point up to him, obviously thanking him in that moment. So that's one thing. But I just wear my undergarment, and that's, I guess, the way I really truly represent him, going into each game.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again for sharing. And I'm going to pass it over to Ada. Ada is a basketball and soccer player at Apex Friendship and has been part of FCA there. So Ada, if you don't mind closing this out in prayer.
All right. Dear Lord, thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to meet through technology and allowing others to stay safe during this pandemic and like having everyone worried. But thank you for slowing the world down and keeping us together, although it is through technology, but we still are able to continue through our lives. Thank you for letting us have a special guest today and tell us more about how we can follow you through other people and just overall letting us continue our lives, even though you want to slow it down because of the pandemic. But thank you for everything that you have done. In your name we pray, amen.